everybody, and welcome to Check-In with Sarah Orlesky.
Jamie Thomas with you. Hey, Sunday morning. Afternoon, sorry.
Jamie might be a little bit distracted. We're here inside Canada Life Center, and right on the other side of the camera is an incredibly large screen that's playing some NFL. So we know that there's a lot that can keep you busy, not only football on a Sunday, but obviously this is the Thanksgiving weekend as well. So we're really excited that you guys decided to share a little bit of time with us this morning as we get you ready for tonight's game between the Minnesota Wild and Winnipeg Jets.
Hi, Sandy. Already, of course, we are always happy to interact with you on the show. We'll put your comments up. Or James Robinson already rolling in with the "Let's Go" in capital letters as the Winnipeg Jets. Energy. Yeah, well, the Winnipeg Jets are 2-0 after two very different wins to kick off the year. Of course, 6-0 in Edmonton on Wednesday, and then the 2-1 overtime win on Friday to kick off the season in perfect fashion.
Yeah, reminder that you will be able to catch us at 12:30 on game days on X, Facebook, and YouTube. If for some reason you're unable to join us, you'll be able to rewatch it later just to get you set up with everything. And this is a little bit of a different this morning. 5 o'clock's one of those start time is one of those weird ones where sometimes you have a morning skate, sometimes you don't. Neither team having them today. The Jets did come down this morning for meetings. You know, there were some workouts going on because I was in here at about 9:30 this morning, and you could hear the medicine balls being slammed against the wall. So they were here, but they didn't take to the ice at all. And then the Minnesota Wild played last night at home. So no surprise there that there was no morning skate for them.
Yeah, and that also makes our job a lot easier because we don't have to come to the rink as early. I don't want to speak for you because you were clearly here at 9:30.
I was here at 9:30, so that's fine. But yes, I get where you're going with it.
I was here at 9:30. I was not. I got here at 11:30. So moving forward.
Yes.
Jets taking on the Minnesota Wild today. Minnesota played last night at home against the Seattle Kraken. They fell 5-4 to Seattle. We'll have some news and notes from them with Jesse Pierce from NHL.com coming up at around 12:40, so about 8 minutes from now. She'll fill us in on the latest lineup news. There's a significant injury for the Minnesota Wild that will play a big role in what their lineup is here today. And at some point, they were carrying 3 goaltenders. As soon as today, that situation has changed. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show.
Okay, so our question for the day is going to be for you. What have you liked about the Jets through the first 2 games of the season? As Jamie mentioned, obviously 2 very different types of wins. The decisive 6-0 win against Edmonton, and then that nail biter, but exhilarating win Friday night against Chicago when Mark Scheifele came through with the 2 goals. One late in that third period and just that final minute to be able to send it into overtime, and then with the game winner as well. Scott Arniel saying at the time that you need your best players to essentially rise to the occasion and to be their best, and that's what it was late in the game, a resilient group.
I'd probably say 799 games. That's experience. I think they're going through it, being
we'll bring that up. We'll come back
in
to
a leadership role, playing a top 6 role. Those guys all have a different mindset. Elite players have a more of a calming influence in themselves. They, when they're where everybody else's heart rate might be running at 200. Those guys are in those moments, last minute of a game, and they're just normal. It's crazy, but you often hear about it. Michael Jordan, I mean, he's at his calmest when the game is on the line, or whoever these great players are. You hear about Tom Brady. It's just they get in the moment, and then they're actually that's how they react. It's because they've been through that, they've experienced it. They know that they need to be calm in those situations and let their skills take over and their hockey sense take over, and pretty much what Scheif did last night.
All right, I'd like to apologize.
No, that works.
Okay.
That works.
Yeah.
Scheifele, goal 299 and goal 300, doing it in fine fashion. And you heard Scott Arniel speak about, he was referring to Mark Scheifele and just that ability to be able to stay calm. And I like all the references to Michael Jordan and Tom Brady that we've heard from Scott Arniel, whether it be through training camp or now. I always like those references with it. But game 800 for Mark Scheifele will be tonight. So it's been quite the weekend for him. I do think, for those of you that might remember, and we've got people tuning in from all over the place, Jersey, Vancouver, where else for you? We want to hear from you. But one of the things that I liked about Scheifele's game that we saw from him, well, it was that he scored first. Because I don't know if you remember, Jamie, but we asked in the last game, going into the last game, who do you think is going to score first?
Yeah.
for the Winnipeg Jets. Who got it right? That's right.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it might be the only time I get it correct. So I'm just going to.
So is that the reason why you asked for that clip so you could lean into the fact that you picked Mark Scheifele as the guy that's going to
100%.
score?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
He took his time.
what he did. But you know what?
Yeah.
It's just about how it finishes. Let's take a look at what the expected lines are for today's game. Because there was no morning skate, obviously, we don't think anything's going to change, though. They did practice yesterday here at Canada Life Center, and the lines were what we expected. We saw them in games 1 and 2. Connor Hellebuck expected to get the start again here today. So 3 games in a row. And when things are going the way that they were, why not?
Yeah, and there, of course, was some clarification the other day about who the backup goaltender is for the Winnipeg Jets. We touched on the last show, Eric Comrie, the backup. He talked to the media yesterday. There'll be more on that a little bit later, but certainly it's Connor Hellebuck's net and well-deserving. I liked how there was some conversation about who was going to start in Edmonton. There was a conversation about who's going to start against in the home opener, but it's just so obvious when you've been around this team as long as we have. It's Hellebuck. And we'll start getting into more conversation about when Eric Comrie is going to play net, and likely when you get into a back-to-back situation. But you got the home opener. You're playing the Minnesota Wild. Your geographical rival, Connor Hellebuck's going to be your starting goaltender 99% of the time.
100%. I love seeing where everyone's watching from. Toronto, Clear Lake. We've got, as I scroll through here, a number of different spots. So always love to have you join us. We do know that Winnipeg Jets fans are across North America. You can find them. I'm sure if we went back and did another international game, we would find fans over there as well.
And of course, Sandy weighing in with Helly, 2 games, 1 goal against, not too shabby. And also, we should mention the Jets going back to last year. They won 10 straight regular season games. This is how quickly we forget everything as the summer has whipped by, and the playoffs, of course. Winnipeg, of course, finished won 8 straight games to close out the 23-24 season and off to the perfect 2-0 start so far. So again, our question of the day is, what have you liked about the Winnipeg Jets start to the season? 2 different wins. That's what you want to see. You don't want them winning the same way all the time, because clearly that's not how things go over a long regular season. And of course, no changes to the lineup. Eagle Eyes weighing in. Lowry shorthanded goal tonight.
Ooh.
If we're talking about shorthanded goals, that seems to be Adam Lowry is the right guy to go to. So if you're just joining us, don't forget Jesse Pierce from NHL.com will be coming to join us here at 12:40 to tell us about the Minnesota Wild side of things. And another thing I've always appreciated about Wild games, it doesn't matter who's in the lineup on either side, it gets heated every time.
It's one of the best things. I mean, geographically, we know that it's the closest rival. We've obviously seen some of what's happened in the playoffs as well. But we know that emotions always over. Now, here was a line that I loved that Neil Pionk said yesterday. It gets the adrenaline going. It gets the juices going. You almost get a playoff game in October because you get that physicality and emotion. The crowd will be rowdy. It will be a fun one. It always is when these 2 teams play.
Yeah, and also another thing we're looking for tonight is, there's a lot of discussions about the Jets' second line. And I know there's conversations about, is the Adam Lowry line because the amount of minutes they play going against the other team's best. But the second line with Vladislav Nemestikov, Cole Perfetti, and Nikolai Ehlers still finding their way around things right now. And of course, the Jets will be leaning heavily on that line as the season progresses. But I think they looked a little better, a little sharper in the second game against Chicago. And I think eventually it's just a matter of time before they start putting the puck in the net.
Yeah, look, we're only 2 games in. So, and Cole Perfetti, although he did sign his contract and was back in camp for a lot of it, he did still miss a couple of days. And look, it's a puzzle piece. I think that's what Nikolai Ehlers said. Although they're still trying to figure it all out, but still have runway. It'll be interesting to see how they're utilized tonight by Scott Arniel with last change. Obviously, when you look at Minnesota, even though they're coming in tired and you really want to jump on them early because of that, having gone to the shootout, it was a physical game. They lost some players last night. So you want to be able to try to capitalize on it early. It'll be interesting to see how he utilizes that second line, gets them out there, gets them their opportunities as well to try to take advantage of a tired Wild team.
Yeah, and Adam Lowry's line clearly will be going up against the Kirill Kaprizov line. Kaprizov over the years, since he came to the NHL from Russia, has kind of been a jet killer in some ways. I think that
he always factors in one way or another. It seems that he is always part of the storyline.
Yeah, always does. And so that line will be, and Kaprizov played 24 minutes last night. So we'll be curious to see how much he's going to play here today against the Winnipeg Jets. Clearly you're looking at 20 minutes because of the offense that he provides, but how much does he have left in the gas tank after playing so much in that game against Seattle? So that's some of the questions we're going to have to find. So Doug, yes, we need Ehlers and Perfetti to produce. That is a fair assessment at this point, but remain patient. Kenny's water bottle, always likes to hear from him. It's early, but the Jets are just playing the game presented in front of them. Oilers wanted to open things up. The Jets took advantage. Blackhawks wanted to clog things up. The Jets stayed patient. So well said from Kenny's water bottle. Still love that one as much as ever. So switching things a little bit, we're going to hear from Jessie Pierce here momentarily. She joins us from NHL.com, and I think she might be joining. I got her down the corner there. Can you see if you can bring her up, Adam? Sorry, if she's indeed joining us. Anyway, so yes, Jessie. We have a lot of things going along the bottom as I try to produce my way through this. So Jessie Pierce joining us from NHL.com. And Jessie, a busy night last night for the Minnesota Wild. Let's talk about the injury to Joel Eriksson-Ek. How much does that throw things out of whack for the lineup here today?
A lot. I mean, we saw 2 years ago in the playoffs against the Dallas Stars how important of an impact Joel Eriksson-Ek is for this Minnesota Wild team. That line is a menace, and Joel Eriksson-Ek is the key factor of that menacing line with Marcus Johansson and Matt Boldy. So without Ecker, who I believe it has yet to be confirmed from the team, but I don't believe he made the trip to Winnipeg. I think that they will be recalling a forward from Iowa before the puck drops here tonight in Winnipeg. It's going to hurt. They're going to have to jumble some lines. Last night, John Hines had to do that as Ek had sat out for the majority of the game following that elbow to the face. Ryan Hartman, luckily, is able to play center. He will probably be the one that moves up in that lineup on that second line with Boldy. But I think Hines is going to have to be shifting things around. I think he's going to have to constantly be trying things. And it's unfortunate because not only are you going to miss Ek, but you're going to have to kind of play chess right live there against the Winnipeg Jets with, as you guys have mentioned, a very tired Minnesota Wild team. So definitely hurts. Hopefully it's not a long-term situation for Ecker, but the Wild are going to have to make do tonight without him.
I think that one of the storylines that we'll be watching throughout this season for the Wild too is how they utilize. They've got 3 goalies that they started with on the roster, which is not something that we see a lot of in this day and age. What's the reason for it, Jessie, and how do you think that they'll be utilized?
Yeah, Jesper Valstad was a first-round pick for the Minnesota Wild. He is the future of the Minnesota Wild. But you still have Marc-Andre Fleury, who obviously is on the last year of his contract here in Minnesota as he eyes retirement. And Philip Gustafsson had a very up-and-down season last year. So I think they're giving Philip the opportunity to bounce back, to prove that he is the guy to work in this tandem with Fleury. But they also need to give Jesper an opportunity to get some NHL games because looking toward next year, he has to be that guy. You have to make sure he's ready, and learning underneath Fleury is something that's invaluable, right? You can't help but grow as a goalie and as a player in general under a legend like that. So it's going to be interesting. I think the toughest thing for the 3 goalie situation is not only making sure each goalie is getting the practice time, the ice time, and the games in, but also the mental component that plays. We all know how goalies are a little crazy in the head, but, you know, I have to imagine that factors in because you look at, for instance, Philip Gustafsson, who played a great game in the opener against the Columbus Blue Jackets on Thursday, and then he was sitting in the press box come Saturday in order for Jesper to be the backup to Marc-Andre Fleury last night. So it's definitely going to be a lot of moving pieces. Jesper is going to be reassigned and recalled and reassigned and recalled probably quite frequently, at least I would bet until November. By November, I hope they have a better sense of who their tandem is and they do maybe start to consider going down to the 2. But for now, it's a work in progress. We're here. We're all learning through it. And it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out as the season progresses.
Jessie, we've seen since Kirill Kaprizov came to the National Hockey League, he has had his time with the Winnipeg Jets. He's kind of been a jet killer, and he'll see a lot of the Adam Lowry line today. Played 24 minutes last night, played a lot. How much in the tank is he going to have for this afternoon's game?
I mean, he is a workhorse. He is an absolute beast. If you guys could let him come home from Winnipeg uninjured, we would really appreciate that here in Minnesota.
I figured that was going to come up.
You know,
people don't forget.
Never forget. No, I mean, that's the great thing about Kirill Kaprizov. Not only is he an elite talent, he is working hard constantly. And without Ek in that second line fully intact, that first line is going to have to be everything. The Marco Rossi, the Matt Zuccarello, and Kirill Kaprizov. Thursday, his line was very quiet against the Columbus Blue Jackets, but you definitely saw it come to life last night against the Seattle Kraken. So I think he will muster up all that he absolutely can, because if there's anything about Kirill Kaprizov, he wants to win, and he will do anything in his power to help the Minnesota Wild achieve that tonight.
Jesse, appreciate your time. Enjoy the game, and we're going to see you probably a million times coming up in the near future. So
Always appreciate it, guys. Have fun.
Thanks so much, Jesse. That was Jessie Pierce. You can read her stuff on NHL.com covering the Minnesota Wild. Always great to have Jesse on with us. Really enjoy her insight. She's been covering the team for so many years. Also, this is the first of 3 meetings. I mean, obviously it's only the 3rd game of the season. First of 3 meetings between the Wild and the Jets. They finish their season series before the calendar flips to 2025, which is really, yes, it's kind of a shame.
yeah, especially with them coming in a little banged up here this afternoon for the 5 o'clock puck drop. But the Fire will get stoked up again here this afternoon,
Absolutely.
going into the evening, and I'm sure they'll have 2 more wonderful contests as we go down the schedule in the National Hockey League. And speaking of the schedule,
Yes.
the schedule has been very kind to the Winnipeg Jets.
Yes.
So after today's game, they do not play again until Friday
Yeah.
against the San Jose Sharks, which is Connor Hellebuck night. And then Sunday, the Pittsburgh Penguins and Brian Little night will be here as soon as, just a week from today, which is crazy to think about.
It is. And so a great homestand. As I mentioned, I mean, tonight's game, 5 o'clock before it, you can still get tickets to come on down. But if you aren't able to make it in for tonight's game, San Jose, Pittsburgh, there's lots to cheer about down here at Canada Life Center.
Runway launched on Friday
It
night.
did.
How's the feedback been so far? And
Well,
just
you
a
guys
wonderful
let
episode.
us know now if you've had the opportunity to watch it. If you haven't, for some reason, I don't know what's taking you so long, but you can go to the Winnipeg Jets YouTube page. You can also find it on the Winnipeg Jets homepage as well, and see what we've got cooking for you this year with Runway.
I love this. What Jesse, she has a lovable Minnesota
It's a nice
nice.
personality.
Well played.
You know
Griffin.
what? I see a lot of similarities between Minnesota, Manitoba. I love that. I love the state of Minnesota.
Yeah, it's great. Spend a lot of time with it, obviously, because it's so close.
Okay, so back to Runway
Yes,
though. Episode
please.
1 premiered Friday night. You can go catch it where I mentioned it, but we've got so many things planned for this season for content from the Winnipeg Jets perspective. Home Ice is starting as well. And then Ground Control, which is a podcast that you've done for a number of years now.
Yeah.
You've revamped it a little bit though in the off season.
Yeah, we made some changes to Ground Control. Not so much what the content will be like, but what we have done and have decided that we'll just release it twice a month. It'll be more player centered. So we obviously had the owner, Mark Chipman, on some great conversations about playing both the role of the owner of the Winnipeg Jets and certainly as a fan of the game, talking with respect to the international calendar opening up. October 15th, our next podcast, the episode 2 of this season, it will be Josh Morrissey. And here's Josh and a little look at what the podcast will look like.
October 20th, it's Brian Little night. Obviously, such a quiet guy. And this is a well-deserving night for him. What is it going to mean to you to have him back here and then just have everyone celebrate Brian Little for what he did and what he brought to this organization?
Yeah, I mean, Litzy was kind of always underappreciated, I think, and sort of under talked about. Just he was so good at everything. Like, he really was such a solid player, offensively, defensively, good passer, good shooter, face-off guy. I mean, competitor. He was always in great physical shape. Great guy, like you said, like he's quieter person, but as a younger player coming into the team and my rookie year and first couple of years, he was always super friendly to me, welcoming to me, would offer advice if asked. And his wife was awesome as well. Just an amazing family. And so I think obviously just devastating the way that his career ended. And, it kind of just happened. All of a sudden he didn't, play again, and that was it. And I don't think he ever, unfortunately, got that sort of recognition from or ability to have the fans and everyone sort of show their appreciation for everything he did here in Winnipeg for the community and for the fan base on and off the ice. So for him to have that night, I think we'll all be fired up to see him. But also he's beyond deserving of that, and getting the opportunity for to see how much he meant to everyone and show their appreciation for what he meant to this team and this community.
All right, there's Josh Morrissey, October 15th, full podcast, 21 minutes of some great stuff from the Jets defenseman. Got to ask him about his 2 dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can't go wrong with that. We saw Now I saw it in here and I can't find it exactly the moment, but it was about we need more with Adam
Oh,
Lowry's
yeah.
dogs, which
So-
actually
Yes. Go, go, go.
JMO's dogs
Yeah.
are siblings to Adam's.
What's
Dog
Adam's dog
Banks.
again? Banks.
Banks.
Okay, so
Banks.
I-
Very popular.
I know. I remember now. It's Ace, and I can't remember Josh's other two dogs. But he told some great stories about Ace and his separation anxiety from his wife Margot. Some disgusting stories. That's coming up. Yeah. So he actually did say at the end of his comment, the storytelling, he goes, "There's some content for you." So trust me, you're gonna love it. If you're a dog lover, there's some great stuff coming October 15th. So let's go back to the comments about Runway. One of my favorite questions. Runway is awesome, but how big is the crew, your production crew?
Oh, I mean, it varies, but there's 1, 2, 3, roughly 4-ish. Obviously a little bit more when you're at home. You've got more resources to be able to, in terms of people that can shoot, but it is a small crew, very passionate though. They love the opportunity to be able to bring behind the scenes stories out there. So really looking forward to what we're able to produce this year as you follow along. 10 episodes.
It really is amazing how much you guys pull off though, with the amount of people working.
We try to make it look like it's a huge crew.
Yeah.
That's the goal. That
Yeah.
when you're watching it, you don't think that it's only a couple, that you think, nope, they must have a Netflix-esque budget
Yes.
for this. But
That's
alas,
next year.
no, that's next year.
That's next
That's
year.
next year. That's why you need to watch, so that way next year we can have even more.
All right.
More.
Well, listen, there's some football on. I don't want to keep you guys from it. I don't want to keep myself from it. We appreciate you guys joining us. Jesse
We
Pierce is.
do.
Listen, we got to bring Jesse on more often because that Minnesota energy is fantastic, and she's pretty cool.
She is.
Yeah.
She is great. Also, I see someone here, Jets dog calendar. When I don't know the exact release date for it yet, we'll let you know though. It was such a hit last year. They just finished shooting it. Now I got to tell you that
Wasn't Josh's dogs like all over the place?
they all were.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I was here. We were shooting some of it. I was watching it. I mean, we could call it organized chaos, but the pictures are adorable.
Yeah.
Will be adorable. But when you have that many dogs in a small space together, yeah, it was pretty entertaining. I'm impressed that they got what they got out of it because it was a little chaotic at times.
Great stuff from Jet Centric. Of course, Brian Little day coming up on October 20th. Brian Little likely going to bike to the October 20th game from Ontario. That's alluding to the fact that Brian Little has become an outstanding triathlete. He's no
It's so
surprise there at all.
impressive.
Yeah, we're just thrilled. And I'm sure that a couple of players I've talked to are just happy that he's found something outside of hockey that's made him happy because clearly it was not time for him to retire when he did from the National Hockey.
No, absolutely not. It's such a shame the way that things ended. I give full credit to anyone that participates in triathlons, never mind trains for them, because I don't know how they do that. If
Oh.
you're going to run that far, you better be being chased.
Yes.
It's always the philosophy that we take in our household, but
Fair. That's fair.
it is what it is. Okay, we are going to do a bit of an abbreviated version today, just by a couple of minutes. Again, just because there is no morning skate. So there isn't a whole lot of new information to tell you about. The biggest news coming that we do know about, again, from the Minnesota Wild, Joel Eriksson injured, not on this road trip. And it's the start of a long road trip for the Wild. They don't play at home again until November 1st. They are coming in off of that shootout loss last night, whereas the Jets were able to have the practice yesterday. No morning skate here today, but we are expecting.
All right. On behalf of Jesse Pierce and Sarah Lesker and Jamie Thomas, thanks so much for watching Check-In.
We'll see you Friday. Look forward to it. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.